the same statistics that were back then and still holds true today is that our average representative lasts about 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It's a revolving door. I
Okay.
started in actually this past last week was my 25th anniversary. May 23rd, 1999. So I've been
Yeah.
selling Cutco for 2 centuries,
Yeah.
technically. Almost 4 decades, right? So,
John Lee Real Estate, found you the best rate. All throughout Philly, like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of the
Hello, everyone. This is John Lee, your local real estate agent here in the greater Philadelphia and Philadelphia area. My name is, again, John Lee, here in the greater Philadelphia area. I'm here with Justin Kim. He is a representative of Cutco. So, very, very, very excited to have you, Justin. And if you can just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do.
yeah, so my name is Justin Kim, and I work with Cutco Closing Gifts. Basically, what we do is we help agents brand themselves through their gifts. And I mean, we work with many different types of sales professionals and many different businesses. I work in a division of Cutco. It's actually called Cutco Gifting now, where we basically help business owners basically a way to appreciate their clients, love on their clients. And also to make sure that their clients remember them for repeat business and for referral business in the future. But we primarily work with a lot of real estate agents because we started with real estate agents because primarily, as you know, the real estate agents always gives gifts, or they usually do give gifts generally. And of course, they're their own business owners, right? So typically when you work with a bigger business or bigger company, you have to deal with a lot of different to get approval, you have to work with a lot of different people within that system. But however, with real estate agents, they're their own one-man show, one-woman show, so they're their own business. So, so we started. So we basically a bulk of our gifting is done through the real estate community and loan office community, because repeat business and referral business is basically the foundation of their business for many of our real estate professionals and their business. So it kind of works hand in hand with what they do. So that is what we do. And most real estate agents we've noticed through the past have been giving gifts, but they give the wrong gifts. They usually give like a bottle of wine or a champagne or a gift card or a gift basket, which is great. I mean, the client does love it, and usually, hopefully, they do appreciate it. But as you know, there's no real shelf life with it. They're gone. They eat it, they drink it, they spend it. So what we do is we take the Cutco product, which of course is second to none, which is literally the best knives on the planet, but we engrave it with the agent's name and phone number and their logo. So every time their client looks at it, they're constantly reminded of the great service and the great experience
Right.
they had with their agent.
Right. Well, I actually kind of find it funny that you say that most agents give gifts. I actually find that most agents don't give gifts. I don't know if I
Mm.
don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, I've had several clients come up to me and say, "Hey, John, I've never had an agent give me a gift," which was actually pretty surprising. Um, but it really
That's
is.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's a true testament to the agents that really do, I guess the best way to put it, appreciate their clients. So even for me to like figure out what was meaningful for my clients, I actually on Instagram I put a post. I said, "Hey, would you prefer like several gifts throughout the year, or would you prefer one giant gift?" And I unanimously, most people said that they would prefer one giant gift. So
Really?
yeah, so that was my idea of going with Cutco. There were several other products that I've considered using, but for me, I like to do business with people who are within, the community, right? Because we're both Korean, and with how I met with Mina is how you met with her too, right? So for our listeners, Mina is also another real estate agent, and she referred me to you, and I was like, yeah, bet, let's do it. So I'm glad that we were able to meet and for us to do business with each other, so to speak. But yeah, I
So
mean, apart from that, I mean, My experiences with Cutco goes way back, like, and I've always known it to be such a reputable brand. So even as a kid, I remember my mom like, dicing, like, vegetables and cutting stuff with it. And I always knew it to be a very good product or high-end product. But because I've been in sales for over a decade, I also know that the sales training program is very strong. And even for younger, aspiring people who want to get into sales, I do know that the programs that they offer is superb. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about your experience working with Cutco, like what you did prior to Cutco, just a little bit more about your story getting into being in the business.
Yeah, so it's been 25 years. Actually, this past last week was my 25th anniversary, so to
Oh my
speak.
gosh. Okay.
I started in May 23rd, 1999. So I've
Yeah,
been
yeah,
selling cocoa for 2 centuries,
yeah,
technically.
yeah,
3 decades. I say 90, 20, almost 4 decades, right? So
yeah.
if you really want to think it that way, I take it that way.
Yeah,
Um, so I was 18 years old when I started,
yeah,
and I was finishing up my freshman year of college. I went to Franklin and Martha College, which
okay,
actually is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so about an hour and a half west from where you are.
right,
Um, and so I was actually going to my sophomore year, and that's typically a lot of Cutco, a lot of our sales force, a lot of kids that we get are usually 18-year-olds that we started, or usually it's usually a senior in high school that's going to their freshman
right,
year of college, or their
right,
freshman going to their sophomore year. It's typically an 18, 19-year-olds. That's primarily what we normally get.
right,
So I started, I got a letter in the mail, which is how a lot of kids actually heard about it. And so I came in for an interview, and it's been the longest. It's been the longest summer job ever, I guess. So, but reason why I stuck with it is because, like you mentioned before, they do have a great sales training program. It's a great culture. Before that, when I was a senior in high school going to my freshman year of college, I worked for an electrician. So, I basically what I did was I was trying to, in fact, I was trying to look. I was so desperate for a job. I was willing to do anything. But I met a guy who was an electrician and needed help, and it was off the books. It was $7 an hour, which was a lot. This is back in 1998, so $7
yeah.
an hour. That was like, you guys, the minimum wage was like 5.15 back then,
So
so
it
that
was
was
a
a
lot of
lot.
money. Yeah,
It was a lot for me, and
yeah, yeah,
so I did that. But I realized, and I worked hard. I did everything that he told me to do, and but it was a great experience, and working with your hands, and I learned that I'm not great with my hands, but it's something that I would do as a career.
right,
Obviously we have great tradespeople and people who are great with their hands, and grateful for those people, but that's not what I was really good at. So I
right,
wasn't great at it, but I did what I was told, and I did what need to get done. So I thought I was going to do that again the following summer. As an 18-year-old college, just finishing my freshman year of college, and as you know, when you're 18 years old, you're usually broke. But this experience came about, this opportunity came about, and my manager at the time was Tim Barnes, who was my mentor and recruited me. In fact, we're still friends to this day. And so I was really impressed with the product. I was impressed with the company overall. And like you mentioned, Cutco does have a great sales training program. In fact, a lot of my fellow colleagues over the years have gone on to do incredible things with their careers, and a lot of them actually credit their Cutco experience because of that.
right.
I stuck with it. When I graduated college, I thought I'd do Cutco for a year or two and then go to law school, like a good Korean boy. But that never happened. I realized that law school was just a lot of reading and too much. Something was probably not for me.
Right.
So it became a career. But in between, I actually also was in the Cutco management program. So I actually ran two offices. Actually, I was actually a branch manager and a district manager in Flushing, Queens, in New York City, and that was a great experience as well. But I also learned from that experience that I'm actually a much better to be in the field. Some people are great at being coaches on the sidelines, and some people are better on the field. And so I learned that I was better on the field, and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. So like, uh, like all sales jobs, right? I think there's high levels of turnover. I'm assuming that's the same with Cutco, right? So,
Very much so.
I mean, for you to be in the business since 1999, like what were some of the things that you did to really establish yourself and make yourself a very strong presence in the business?
So, like you mentioned, there is a tremendous high turnover. In fact, I think the same statistics that were back then and still hold true today is that our average representative lasts about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, it's pretty quick. It's a revolving door,
Yeah.
and that's because it's a very, very, very challenging job. It's a job where, we ask young people basically to make their own schedule, to be disciplined, in making their own schedule because most people are used to just going to a 9 to 5, whether it's, let's say, working at McDonald's, they clock in and they clock out,
Right.
and that's what most people are used to doing. But essentially, they're independent contractors, just like a real estate agent is, 1099. And I see the same challenges in the real estate community.
Oh, yeah.
And these are much bigger people. These, these are grown-ups, right? And so even they have a huge challenge. They have a huge challenge in terms of trying to get themselves on a discipline, to be on a disciplined schedule, right? So, the thing is that what we always tell people is that treat it like a real job or treat it like a business. And of course, in the real estate world and in the Cutco world, because that's what we call real estate, by the way. In our company, it's an inside joke. We call real estate Cutco for grown-ups, because there's not really much difference, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but what I did was, there was a lot of challenges, and there were times that, of course, I wanted to quit, and because I was not a superstar rep, it took me actually 2 years just to be. I mean, my first summer I did okay. Second summer, very mediocre. It took me, and then the following January, that winter break, that's when I really clicked. And reason why it clicked for me then is because but even though I wasn't a superstar, I went to everything. I went to all the trainings, I went to all the meetings. And so I had all this knowledge, but I never used it, never applied it. And I finally decided to apply it. And that was actually December of 2000 when I finally actually decided to apply it. And so, the great thing about, real estate, and the reason why I love working with realtors is because, like I said, it's Cutco for grown-ups, people like myself. And the great thing is, in both of our businesses, if you just stick it out long enough, you'll be successful at it.
Yeah.
In Cutco, they say that if you stick around long enough, they'll just keep on promoting you. So which is quite the case. So I find that when realtors just keep on sticking it out, just keep on doing what they're doing, eventually it does click, and eventually they do get it. But unfortunately, most people do leave the industry before that happens. I think last time I checked, I think 80% of real estate agents don't renew their license within the 2-year period.
Hmm.
So that's the thing about sales, is that you don't really have to be, you don't have to, you could be of average intelligence, but if you just have a good enough work ethic, you'll be successful at it. And that's what really appealed to me, actually, because in high school, I wasn't a star student. I did okay, but I wasn't, a national merit scholar or a top in my class. In fact, what was really hard for me is that I grew up in a very competitive environment. I went to a high school that was one of the most competitive high schools around. And so we had a lot of just really talented and smart kids. We had a lot of talented athletes, so I played football through high school and in college. And I was never a star player, never a star athlete. And it was really hard because there was just a lot of talent around me. But Cutco
Right.
was the first thing that I did that I finally, where I was able to excel at something. So I think that's one of the reasons why, looking back, why I still stuck with it and I'm still there. So, because I found something that I was good at. It was the first thing that I found that I was good at.
Yeah, I mean, that hits me so hard, Justin, because in that same way, like I share quite often, like my experiences in high school. Like my GPA was like I think I was 2.7 or something like that. I scored below 1,000 on my SAT scores, so I was far below like an average student, I guess, if not average at best. And yeah, like surrounding yourself with with good people that really push you, really like help you excel. Like I can also like relate with that too. Like playing basketball, you know, when I was younger, because I'm the youngest of three, so I have two older brothers. So when I played basketball, I played with their friends. And so, like, my level of skill obviously has gotten a lot better, you know, being around people that were bigger than me, stronger than me, more talented than me. So, again, I was never the best, but I think the message that you're trying to share with the audience, and I'm also trying to share with the audience, is that definitely the work ethic really shows, especially in certain things like in our career. So, I want to give you credit for that for sure.
Yeah, it's again just it doesn't matter how talented you are, or how much talent you don't have, as long as you have tough skin, and that's the thing about what we do. I learned to handle rejection pretty well, and so just have tough skin. And I've seen a lot of people come into the Cutco business, kids who went to Ivy League schools, and they just couldn't handle it. And we see that in real estate too.
Oh
People with
yeah,
advanced people because maybe they're just so talented, they're just used to everything being so easy, but I wasn't. So
yeah.
maybe it's maybe we're just a little nutty, we're just masochists, I guess, in that way. We're just but so that I think that's one of the main reasons why I stuck with it for so long, because it's not very common. If you look at the entire country, when it comes to Cutco reps, there's probably about 100 of us that actually do it as a career, or maybe 200. I forgot the exact statistics, but it's not a lot.
Right.
In our region, we have probably about 30 or 40, 20. And by the way, 10, 15 years ago, it was just like 8 of us.
Okay.
So it was something that's not really expected. Most people, we expect that most people go to college and graduate college and do something else.
Right.
Making Cutco as a career is not, it's a relatively new thing. And actually one of the very first people in our region to do that, actually. One of the very first people to make Cutco into a career position. In fact, I actually kind of helped with that development back in 2004, 2005. Because back then it was just not a concept that people were, especially people, especially college graduates. So that was something that was never done, but now it is. So now it has become a career opportunity, but that was not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that I've noticed, especially to kind of like, I guess change topics a bit. Like you've been in the business for quite some time, and we've both been in sales for a good amount of time. Like, what are some things that you've been taught that you are still implementing today, as far as the way that you present yourself and the way that you go about doing your business? Some of the old habits. And what are some of the new habits that you're generating to get business or to implement in your business?
Gosh, so what were the things? Well, I've always been taught, you get the more calls you make, the more sales you make, right? So,
Right.
just hitting the phones. I know that there's a lot of gurus out there that tell you that, don't pick up the phone, do it this way, that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the old days, or still do. There are people who still try to, get, you can get a 6-pack abs in 7 minutes, or you can do this, and there is no shortcut.
Right.
There is no way really around it. So the key is just to talk to more people. People always want to know the different closes or different techniques, which is important. But the key is just to talk to more people, and that's something that I forget sometimes. I have to remind myself. It's kind of like when you go to a nutrition seminar, you don't really learn anything new, right? After you're done, basically, what's the takeaway? Eat more
Right.
vegetables. And so the fundamentals don't change. In terms of new ways of getting business, there really isn't. I still use the old tried and true techniques. It's just not knowing what to do is doing what I know. And I need to do more of it. So, for example, when I try to call a real estate office, sometimes I don't get through the manager, because if I want to speak at their office meeting or whatnot, you text them, you email them, and of course those all work, but some of them don't respond. So
Right.
what I have done in the past, which when I was younger and hungrier, and as I got older, I learned I basically became more comfortable, and you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important. And a lot of times I forget that. And you have to do the things you normally wouldn't do. So when I was hungrier and younger, I used to, pop into a real estate office and talk to the manager. And I did that recently a couple of times. And guess what? I got meetings. I
Yeah.
mean, so it actually worked. And the funny thing is, some of them are, yeah, and I forget that a lot of the people that I'm calling receive hundreds and hundreds of calls and text messages from other vendors trying to get in, or from other people trying to sell coaching or whatnot. I mean, there's a million things, and they're just so busy, they just can't respond to you.
Right.
And when I just come in and they see a face, or if they do want to ignore you, obviously when you're there, it's much easier to reject somebody over the phone,
Right.
or just ignore them over the phone, but it's hard to do it in person.
Right.
And when I was in a bowl class with as you know, you're in KW, and I sat through a lot of bowl classes. I've had agents say that someone wasn't picking up my call, so I knocked on their door, and you know what, they were able to get the listing, just
Right.
because they just went that extra mile. So that's something that I have to remind myself. So it's not a new technique. It's something that I just needed. It's an old technique that I need to do again.
Right. Right. Yeah, for me, what really rung to me for like just having this conversation was how I used to conduct business. So I would be the first person to admit that, like, when I started sales, a lot of the things that I was taught years and years ago was through assumptive sales. So you're just kind of assuming that they're going to buy whatever you're offering, right, or product. And it was almost like, for me, it was almost forceful. Like, I would almost force the person to, like, hey, you're buying this thing, and like, there was a level of result that I got from it, but I think the result was strictly from sheer volume. So what you're referring to as far as like the old school methods, it's not even old school, it's common sense in sales. It's just volume, right? Like, how many doors are you knocking? How many calls are you making? The activity, right? That alone is what carried me in most of my sales experience. But what I learned halfway through, like, my sales experience was just being myself, right? And that was one thing that really attracted me to you as a rep. I felt very comfortable in how you conducted business, but also I think the personality and our approach was actually kind of similar, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I tend to be very amiable in nature, and also very friendly. I try to approach people with obviously a level of respect. And the approach that I did, maybe 6, 7 years ago, is entirely different than how I am as a real estate agent now. So that's the first thing that I can think of, and that's why I wanted to ask that question.
It's an excellent point that you make, because only you can be you, and you have to be you.
Oh yeah,
When early part of my Cutco career, I tried to emulate my original district manager,
yeah,
and it just didn't work.
yeah,
And there was another representative who was one of our top reps in the entire country. And he was actually my mentor. He's someone that I actually flew out to California to watch and to observe and to train and to learn from, because he was just kicking butt for years.
right.
But funny thing is, he eventually ended up becoming a best-selling author and became a motivational speaker. In fact, you've heard of him. It's Hal Elrod.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
yo, that's an amazing dude. Yeah,
yeah, so The
yeah,
Miracle Morning.
yeah,
He wrote The Miracle Morning.
yeah,
In fact, I crashed on his couch back in 2004, and I used to watch him writing his first book, which was Taking Life Head On, which
yeah,
was not the hit that The Miracle Morning became, but it was one of his first books. And he's an extremely charismatic person, and
right,
extremely, I mean, the charisma, and so so I tried to be him. I tried to act like, but again, it didn't work. So
right.
the key is just to be who you are, and that worked really well for me. So, which
Yeah.
that's a great point that you made.
Yeah, no, I like kind of going back to that. It was a tough time for at least for me, like because there was a lot of insecurities, a lot of things that I wanted to emulate. Like, it's easy for us to look at someone who's successful and you want to be like that person because you see success. But at the end of the day, people are not necessarily buying the product, they're buying the character of who you are and what you represent as a person. So that's truly wise words. And for our listeners, Hal Elrod is like an amazing, amazing author. He wrote a book, Miracle Morning, for our listeners. And correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but he observed all of what the most influential people do in their morning, whether it's meditating, praying, their habits of sleep, and I mean, it goes on and on, right? And he has these 8 habits that people do every morning, and he pretty much focuses in the book on how you can go about creating those healthy habits. So great book, by the way. So I wanted to have that plug in there for my boy Hal Elrod. Apart from that, Justin, with the knives, right? Like tell us like what how'd you segue because most reps, right, most reps are selling knives, at least what people think they're selling knives to like family members or people who are friends or family, whatever, right? How did you get into more specifically for realtors?
So most of our representatives start off with their friends and family.
Right.
You just like real estate agents do, their sphere of influence. And then what they do is they ask for referrals and then it just balloons from there. So it's like
Right.
a snowball effect. So that's how we start. So that's how I started. And that's our residential program where people sell in people in customers' homes.
Right.
Because we don't sell in restaurants, we don't sell anything like that because Cutco doesn't really, although people think that Cutco would work well in restaurants, it really doesn't because they'd get stolen and whatnot. But so residential only, and that's how it works. Or nowadays we have representatives at street fairs and shows and garden home shows, things like that. So they meet people that way, and also we also have a service call program where we could request Cutco owners who are no longer have a rep in a certain zip code, and we sometimes call them and to arrange sharpening. But once we get in the door, and then of course we try to sell them other products, and of course get referrals that way. So that's how I also did stuff. So when I went to school in Pennsylvania, I didn't know anybody, but I started with service calls, kind of like expireds for real estate agents.
Right.
So what we did, I get a bunch of zip codes and call people who have that product and basically ask them if they want service because we could sharpen the knives right in their kitchen. And then after I'm done, of course, I ask for referrals and people in the area, and that's how I built my business in Pennsylvania. I was able to build that up in Connecticut as well, and many different towns and different areas. And all you really need is just one person. And so I remember, I was in New Canaan, Connecticut. I met this one lady, Francine Kiriakos. She referred me to 60 people. And then boom, I had a business in Connecticut now. So that's how we started. But back in 2007, there was the founder of our program, Tony Carlston. He actually developed the realtor program out in the Pacific Northwest, out in the Portland, the Oregon, Washington area. And he was trying to figure out a way sell Cutco to real estate agents because his mother was a real estate agent. So he knew about the real estate industry and knew that. And by the way, real estate agents have been given Cutco for years. I mean, I sold Cutco to real estate agents before we even had the program.
Right. Right.
But it was an undisciplined program. It was just something that people just did haphazardly, randomly.
Right.
But Tony Carlston, he actually figured out a systematic way and on how to do it the right way. And so, he figured it out. And so the company decided to partner up with him and to roll out a program. And so 2007, we started what we call the Realtor program. Now it's called the Cutco Gifting program, but
Right.
it was a Realtor program. and basically they had some obviously some conditions, so you can't be a new representative, or it can't be a rep. It has to be a representative that sold a certain amount for a certain number of years, and they have to actually be approved by their region or division manager. So not just anyone can do it,
Right.
because obviously we want to maintain the relationships that we have with our offices and their industry. So
Right. Right.
yeah, so I actually wanted to join the program, but I was still stuck doing things the old way, because the realtor program takes a tremendous amount of effort, and it takes a tremendous amount of, and actually it's really interesting, because you have a lot of some of our top reps in the country can't sell closing gifts. That's because it's a totally different way of selling, and
Right.
so you're so good at doing it this way at a different to regular residential customers, and then you have to start all over again. So that was really hard for me.
Oh,
Um,
right. I didn't think of that.
so in 2010, I actually officially joined the program, but I didn't really get good at it until 2012. That's when I started really
Right.
hitting the ground running. So it took me a long time. So,
Right.
all these people who joined the program, they were ahead of me. So of course, those are the people that I tried to learn from and pick their brain from. But what did it? I'll tell you exactly why I wasn't doing well, and why I figured it out is because I learned my scripts. Um,
Mm.
a lot of times I was like, yeah, I get it, I understand it, and it did not work, right? So once I said, you know what, I'm gonna just learn the scripts, and just follow the program and do it the way that, because it's been a proven program that has worked. So instead of just doing it my way, let's figure it out. So let's learn the scripts. So I finally nailed the scripts, and you know what, the scripts worked. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And I learned this a lot in the real estate industry. One of the things that Keller Williams loved about us is because when we speak in front of a group of people, they know that we're using a script, even though it's a natural script, but they know that we're using a script. And one of the things that, if you look at Mike Ferry and other real estate trainers, is that they emphasize the importance of learning scripts in
Oh,
your
yeah.
dialogue. And that's something you have to do in sales. A lot of people don't want to do it because they want to feel, I don't want to look like, sound like a robot and whatnot. But when you have a structure, and you're covering all the points, and you do it with confidence, then it makes all the difference in the world. And so for a couple years, from 2010 to 2012, I was just doing it casually. Maybe do a meeting here and there, and it would just blow up, and I would just butcher it. And then I finally figured out, enough is enough. Go back to the basics, pretend that you're brand new, learn it again. I learned it like you're a brand new person, and I did, and then took off from there.
Mm. No, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. When I started my job, my first job as a financial advisor, I was working under a pretty reputable agent. His name's Colin Law. I still remember. He made me he made me memorize like 3 pages of the presentation. So I would be walking down in the middle of the hall and he'll be like, John, what's page one, paragraph three? And I would have to literally be able to like memorize the whole entire thing. And yeah, like for the first full year, it's kind of like, it gives me, it's like almost embarrassing for me to talk about it, but like I did sound like a robot. But that experience alone has taught me the power of scripts because it got me through so many presentations and to the point where I felt confident. Like you said, I felt confident in how I was presenting my firm at the time. And yeah, 100% agree with you. And it's funny that you say that because, like, as we get more experience, we think that we don't necessarily need it. You know what I mean? But yeah, like you're right. When you get into a new field or something where you're talking with, I guess in your case, a different group of clientele, it's pretty encouraging to know that you're humbled enough to like relearn, I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah, and because we had scripts, during the residential program, and so I knew those scripts,
Yeah,
uh, and I realized, that even
it's
though
not
you're
the
still
same.
selling
Yeah,
Cutco, but because you're not really selling Cutco, you're selling a concept really. It's the real estate agent. So
Mhm.
it's not, we don't even, obviously when we talk to a brand new customer about Cutco, we're talking about, the edge and talking about what the handle's made out of, blah, and the steel, which is all important. But the real estate agents don't care about that. We don't talk about that. We talk about their branding, talk about that as tax deductible. So it's a totally different selling point.
Right.
And you're not really selling the product, you're selling the concept. So that took me, it's like, yeah, I already know how to sell Cutco, but again, you're not selling Cutco. So I had to humble myself to really learn it and to basically be like a baby again. And
Yeah.
so that's what did it. And so, and it's very hard though, because like most of our people who even start the realtor program, most do fail.
Right.
So the number of people that do the realtor program in our region, actively, I think it's about 8 people.
Oh, that's it.
There are many, yeah, there are many people who have attempted it,
Yeah.
but they don't stick. Again, they don't stick it out long enough, or they just go back to a different division of Cutco, which is or go back to the residential side of selling Cutco.
Right. Right.
But because getting your database started, going. Because Cutco doesn't give you anything, so they don't give you like these are
Right.
people that we need to contact. You have to come up with your own database, and so in the beginning, you're cold calling offices,
Right.
plain simple, or trying to go to networking meetings and trying to meet real estate agents and talk to those real estate agents. That's what I did, talking to real estate agents and say, can you introduce me to your manager, to your broker,
Yeah.
and try to sell that person their office, but hoping that the broker was in the office so you could introduce yourself to them.
Right.
Nowadays in my area, in certain parts, everybody kind of knows me, so I just give them a call. It's like, hey, can I come to your meeting next Thursday? And then like, sure, come on in.
Sure.
But back in the old days, and I still have to do that because there's still many parts of my market that's untapped, by the way.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and no matter how long you're here, you think, there's still people who don't know you. But
Right.
in the beginning, nobody knew. And by the way, nobody knew what Cutco Closing Gift was. Today, people
Right.
kind of know us because we've been in many different national events and things like that. But back then, we weren't. So it was just pounding the pavement, and those days were kind of hard, but they were necessary.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wrap up with two last questions. One, so what advice would you give to someone starting out in a sales position or looking to provide, unique value to their clients?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. What would I tell somebody who is looking to go into sales?
Yeah, looking
Uh,
into sales or looking to provide unique value to their clients.
yeah, so I mean, if they're looking to go into sales, obviously know what they're in for. That's what I always say. Know what they were in for. Know that it's a very long process. It's kind of like lifting weights, and people think that they can get their dream body in 6 months or a year, and that's not the case. It usually takes at least 2 to 5 years. And I talk to bodybuilders that I know, and many of them will tell me that it took them 10 years to get to where they are.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, you do Muay Thai and all that, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any martial art, you're not going to be a black belt tomorrow. So it is a process and it will take long. Like I'm trying to learn how to play golf. I've been exposed to golf all my life. My father loved golf. I mean, all my friends, but I just never picked up the sport.
Yeah.
And it's kind of embarrassing because, when people ask me to play, I'm like, I don't want to play, which is kind of really embarrassing, especially as a Korean, right? So I realized I gotta take lessons, and I gotta again be like a baby. I can barely hit the ball, and I know that this is not going to happen, in the next couple of months or even a year. I mean, this is going to take me years. So I would say that as long as you stick it out, like I said, as long as you stick it out, you know for me, I was, be the last man standing, eventually, because your competition, will eventually, go away. So I think
Right.
in that aspect, in terms of offering a unique value proposition, just find out what it is that what you offer your clients, and just emphasize that. So for us, when it comes to closing gifts, we know that here's the thing, and the reason why it works so well with us is because we know that agents are going to spend the money anyway. I know you said that you've heard a lot of people who never got closing gifts from the agents, but in general, most agents do. They just don't give good gifts. They give a gift certificate or maybe a plant or something like that. So I always say that this is something that you're going to spend the money anyway. And before closing, you guys are always stressed out, running around town, fighting for parking, putting gift baskets together. Like, we're going to make this really easy for you. Just order a whole bunch. We'll split the charge over 6 months. You just grab it, give it, and go. And for some people, that's the number one reason why they actually like our closing gift program, because it's just so easy.
Right.
And so, but understand that what you're giving is a product that your client's going to use every day. That's forever guaranteed. That the product will literally be in your client's kitchen even after they are gone. All right, it's got a forever guarantee. They're going to use it every day. Their kids and their grandkids will be using it, and your name will always be there for years. So, I mean, you'll be out of business. You'll be retired or dead, but somebody will be still using that knife. So, that's what we try to hammer. The point that, again, it's easy to give, but more importantly, it's just an easy system for you. But it's something that, and no other product really offers that. So I think we're kind of really lucky because it's such a unique product, and it really is an easy product to sell because, I mean, there's no other product better than Cutco, really. But so that'd be a little bit hard question for me to answer. But in terms of unique selling proposition, I always say find out what it is that makes you different and just emphasize that.
Right. No, that's awesome. You hit the nail on the head. And lastly, the last question is, where can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find me. I mean, I know that you can edit this, and they can email me or text me or call me, or send me an Instagram message, IG. But honestly, good old-fashioned text and phone calls do work. Email that works. Well, I mean, I do it all, but that works for me.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll make sure I put all your information in the links and descriptions below. All right, well, Justin, thank you for everything, and thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was great.
All right, brother. Thanks.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of the 215, even the 267, who always helping like, no time for no student.